Hello, everyone. Have you ever thought about how your mind shapes your future? My name is Mariana, and today I'm here to talk about misconceptions about life. When I first started thinking deeply about life, I didn't expect to end up here, questioning everything I thought I knew. It all began at a doctor's appointment, one that unexpectedly turned into something more like a psychology session. There was an intern present, and he was explaining how many of the problems people face today actually come from unresolved past experiences. While doctors often look for physical causes, sometimes the real issue could be something emotional or psychological. At one point, he handed me a list full of words. One of them was life. Before I could even write down my thoughts, he told me, "Don't rush. Some questions aren't meant to be answered now. They're answered slowly, through living." That's when I realized life isn't as simple as it seems. Moreover, life can be seen as a journey where we grow stronger through challenges. We each have our own path, and no one has the right to dictate how we live it. In fact, it's important to understand that the way you choose to live your life is entirely up to you. You hold the pen to your story, and each decision you make is like writing another page. Some people may try to influence your decisions, but in the end, only you are responsible for the outcome. Sometimes growth isn't always visible, but it's still happening. There's this bamboo story that illustrates this perfectly. There were two men that decided to plant two trees. One man planted a willow tree, the other man planted a bamboo tree. They both took care of them the exact same way. The difference was that in the first 4 years, the willow tree grew taller and taller. Meanwhile, the bamboo tree didn't grow at all. At least, that's what it looked like. In the fifth year, the bamboo tree started growing drastically. However, a few months later, a storm hit. Guess what? The willow tree fell and the bamboo tree stood tall. You know why? Because during those 4 years, when it seemed that nothing was happening to the bamboo tree, it was actually growing deeper roots, preparing for future events like these. Life works the same way. Sometimes progress is hidden, but it's still happening, preparing you to withstand for future challenges. And when that growth finally becomes visible, it's stronger and more resilient than anything that grew without deeper roots. Just like the bamboo, the work you're putting in now is preparing you for who you're meant to become. Now, here's the harsh reality, and where most people get the concept mistaken. Is that hidden progress actually happening, or are you trying to convince yourself it is? Because if you tell me you want to change your looks, but go to the gym once in a while and don't align what you nourish your body with, I'm sorry to tell you, but nothing will change. No, it's not because you're unlucky. It's not because your gym plan isn't adequate for you. It's because you don't want it bad enough. People say to be successful, you need to be disciplined, which is not fully wrong, but I kind of consider it nonsense. Not because hard work doesn't pay off, but because forcing yourself into discipline is an unsustainable lie. You think you need discipline to change? No, what you need is to change your mindset. Because the truth is, you will always act in alignment with who you believe yourself to be. If success feels like forcing yourself, then it means that deep down you still see yourself as the kind of person who fails. Let's put it in other terms. When was the last time you had to force yourself to binge watch a show or scroll on your phone? You didn't, because those actions align with your identity. That's why they feel effortless. Now, compare that with going to the gym, eating healthier, waking up early, and working towards your goals. Why does it feel like resistance? It's not because those actions are hard, it's because they contradict with who you subconsciously believe yourself to be. And here's where most people get it wrong. They don't fail due to lack of discipline. They fail because their actions do not match their identity. Every action you take either strengthens or weakens the story you believe about yourself. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm lazy, I'm indisciplined, I hate hard work," your brain will try to seek proof to confirm it because being in our comfort zone feels nice. Even when you do succeed, you sabotage yourself because success feels like something that's not meant to be yours, something that doesn't belong to you. That's why people who win the lottery often end up broke, and those who lose everything but believe they're wealthy rebuild because they know that this world is very abundant and that whatever is meant to be theirs will be, regardless of what happens in between the process of conquering it. In the end, success isn't about discipline, it's about what feels normal to you. Now, you may be wondering, if discipline isn't what brings me success, then what is? Easy question, your mind. Instead of forcing actions, change what feels normal, what feels like home. If going to the gym feels like you're being punished, then it will obviously always require discipline. But if you change your mindset and your idea of going to the gym because you know it's good for your overall well being, then it will start becoming something part of your identity, and eventually you'll crave it. You won't be able to spend a day without having the need of going. If reading feels like a chore, just like the ones your parents gave you when you were little, it will require willpower. But if you believe that you deserve to have knowledge, motivation won't be required. Obviously, at some point in life, discipline will be needed. Maybe it's your mind testing your boundaries. Maybe it's your mind entering a phase of comfort zone. And of course, there will be days in which we have to show up for ourselves, even when we don't feel like it. However, if it gets to a point in which every action you do feels like you're being forced, then think about what aligns with your identity and what doesn't. If an action you constantly do starts becoming hard, it doesn't mean you have to stop doing it because it's hard. It means your mind is subconsciously trying to protect you from danger. And the difference between successful and unsuccessful people is whether they confront that danger face or not. Not because they know they have to, but because they know they deserve it after all the work they've already put in. Once you fix your identity, the actions automatically follow. So don't force change. Become the person who doesn't need forcing. Once success feels like home is when you'll actually start succeeding. And remember, faith is important, but faith without action is just hope. And as you know, hope alone doesn't build dreams. So, are you living in alignment with the person you truly want to become, or are you trying to convince yourself you are? Thank you.